which I'm sure you'll find very interesting and as exciting as this morning's sessions. My name is Naomi Visser, and I will be chairing, as you can imagine, this session this afternoon. I apologize for Mimi Seifert-Weert. Her name is on the program as chair for the session, but unfortunately she fell ill and cannot be with us today. I'm currently still the manager electronic resources at the library, but as of the 1st of November, I will be the head of the engineering and forestry library, also at Stellenbosch University. Before we start the session, I would like to once again acknowledge and thank our sponsors and remind you to please engage with them, either here at their tables at the venue or virtually in the sponsors lounge on the virtual platform. And I would like to mention each of the sponsors as well as the people representing them here at the venue. EBSCO, once again, thank you for sponsoring the dinner. If the lunches we've had so far is anything to go by, I'm sure it's going to be a very nice dinner tonight, and looking forward to that. Thank you, Colleen and Bronwyn and Dean, for being here with us as well. Then we also have Elsevier, John Sturley and Dineshri Moodley. I'm not sure if they're still here. Emerald, we have Sean Besserup at the back there. Thank you for being here, Sean, as well. Jessica Porter and Tammy King of ProQuest. And Philip de Kock from Springer Nature. And then we also have Jean Nell and Madiba Makubela of Sabinet here with us. Although they don't have a table, they're here with us. And we would also like to thank Pierre Malan and Ross Hatting, as well as Sanet Vos and Marco McKenzie. They're all also from Sabinet and attending our symposium virtually. Thank you for your sponsorship as well. And then also WWIS, Worldwide Information Services, Melissa and Zanele are attending virtually. We truly appreciate your sponsorship and your attendance at our symposium. Thank you very much. Now, this session is about data services and innovation in libraries. And we have 4 speakers, actually 4 presentations. The first and the last will be virtual presentations, and the middle 2 will be in-person presentations, and at least we will have some refreshments as well in the middle. I would also like to remind you to post your questions, the virtual attendees, and people here in the audience, please make notes of your questions. We will leave that for the discussion right at the end of the session. Okay, as mentioned, we have 4 presentations, all about data services and innovation in libraries. And to start the session off, we have Alan Oliver. He's the Business Development Director for the EMEA region at Ex Libris, a ProQuest company. He is an experienced information professional who has worked in libraries and in the library software business for more than 30 years. And he will talk to us about the topic data everywhere. Thank you, Alan Oliver.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you very much also for the invitation to speak at your symposium. I'm only sorry that I'm not there. I was just a moment ago while you were finishing lunch, I was checking the weather in Stellenbosch and comparing it to the weather here. and it's better in Stellenbosch, I can assure you. But thank you for the opportunity to participate. I'm very happy to do so. And I'm going to talk, as you said, about data everywhere this afternoon. These are the main areas that I want to cover in my presentation today. So I want to start by talking a little bit about data that we see in our daily life. I will move on to talk about our higher education cloud platform and the analytics service which sits on top of it. And I will finally introduce you to Dara, who is our data analysis and recommendation assistant. So first of all, talking about data in daily life, and I'll share some charts that I'm sure that all of you have seen for your own countries in the recent months, or probably 18 months. These are the latest insights that we had on the 6th of October, which was actually when I prepared this presentation. And I think that the charts, you know, while they are broadly representative of what's happening everywhere to a greater or lesser extent, I think they show the amount of data that is actually being collected. And I remember at the beginning of the pandemic back in March 2020, or at least the beginning of the serious stage of the pandemic here, we struggled really with no data. We didn't have data. We didn't know what was going to happen. Now we obviously have a lot of data and even are able to make predictions based on it. Now, you see here just 6 headline charts. I could go to many, many, many levels of detail. I could look in my specific area for specific ethnicities and so on. And what I think is somewhat interesting is that this data, which is obviously being used widely by our government and by others, is also openly available to me. So I took it in here in chart format, but I could have taken it in open data format, and I could have done whatever I wanted to do with it. I think that I was certainly one of those people who watched our briefings every day, especially for the first 100 days or so. And I'm sure that these briefings have exposed people to more data, or some people to more data than they've ever seen before. Think about my mum, for example. We talked about it every day as well. And my mum was astonished at the amount of data that was actually being collected. So just to give a context, my mum is middle 70s. I'll leave it at that age. I want to show you another example, a little bit more cheery this time. This is data that is coming from my Apple Watch. Again, it's from the 6th of October. You will probably not be able to see very clearly, but what you will be able to see is that a huge amount of data is actually being collected. You know, if we look, you know, towards the time and distance, the kilocalories, which incidentally is not enough, but you can also see my heart rate as it moved throughout that walk. If you look over to the middle of the screen, you will see the weather, the humidity, and also the map of the route that I took, and my heart rate in recovery as well. If anyone is looking very closely and sees that kilometer 10 took longer, much longer than all of the others, that's because I popped into a shop probably to pick up some breakfast on the way back home. So again, you know, from just a very simple operation or a very simple activity like walking, my morning walk, there's a huge amount of data. I don't particularly know what happens with it. I don't particularly care. You know, I know what I use it for, but I'm sure it's probably being used for many other purposes as well. So let's move to the professional side of my job and talk a little bit about the data that's available in our higher education platform analytics service. Again, these are the areas of data. This is our main dashboard. These are the areas of data. You may be able to see that acquisitions, discovery, and letters are the column headings. The areas are actually in alphabetical order. I'm sure that many of you will be pleased to hear that. And really the purpose of this slide is just to show you the extent, the scope of data that we actually have within our analytics platform. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in some of the areas, but you know, we have dozens of analyses of each of these areas, whatever we want to look at. And you know, we use this data, we use it to look at the operation of our service, of course, but we use it for other purposes as well. So, you know, for example, if I was invited to a library, as I used to be, or invited to a virtual meeting in a library, I might well refer to this to find out what I need to talk about, or at least to guide me in the areas that I need to talk about when I actually get there. So I wanted to show you another chart, and again, it's probably more or less as you would expect. This is showing for our library services platform, so for ALMA. For worldwide, it's showing loans year over year. And you can see, obviously, last year, 2020, and you can see the huge dip from 5,000 to very, very few indeed. And of course, this is a worldwide representation, tracking different lockdowns around the world. Certainly here, we were in and out of lockdown 3 times. But I think what is quite interesting is that you can see that the pattern is broadly repeating, although on a much lower scale. So, you know, the same activity as you would expect, a drop in the summer months, a peak in, well, this time of year actually, as exams take place. So while there was the huge drop in March and April, as most of the world went into lockdown, there was a steady recovery to October, and then the normal sort of tailing off, although on a much lower level of an initial level than we would actually have expected. And if you look obviously over to the right-hand side of the presentation as well, you will see huge numbers, huge differences, variances, which is, of course, exactly what we would expect. And we also saw a lot of other very interesting trends over the periods of the pandemic and indeed the lockdowns. So the next area that I want to talk with you about is DARA. It's really sad that I'm not there because we have small cuddly ones that we can give out. But DARA is our data analysis and recommendation assistant. When I talk about it, I invite you to think about artificial intelligence, but on a library services platform level. So basically, the recommendation assistant is a smart decision support engine. It's going to help you to make your system more efficient and more effective by looking at the configuration and by looking at the configuration of other institutions as well. It's not to say that any data is being shared between institutions. It's not, unless institutions specifically decide to do so. But Dara, as you will see, leverages algorithms and analysis to tailor guidance for each library. So for each library that is working on our library services platform. And because of the integration, because Dara is a component part of the services platform, many of the implementations that Dara makes can actually be implemented with a single click. So really focusing on improving the efficiency of the libraries via these configurations. Let me give you an example, and I'll start with a more simple example. This was live, or is a live, because I didn't correct it, is a live example from our demonstration system. We can see that there are many titles which have an identical OCLC control number. Now, without producing a report and without specifically looking, it would be a very smart librarian that would be able to deduce that. You know, you will see that there are in fact 8 titles with this OCLC control number. We can see that there is a recommendation here as well. So Dara is recommending removing the identical number and telling me how I can actually do that. And if you look over to the right-hand side, you'll see that there are options to create a set of those 8 records. And I could also look at more information as well. This is a fairly simple example, and another fairly simple example I like to give is a book which is transiting between 2 sites. So it's moving from one library to the other to fulfill holds or reservations, requests, whatever you call them. And perhaps it would be best relocated in the library where it is actually being used. Again, you know, without a 24/7 presence, it would be tricky for any human to pick that up. You might pick up some of them, but Dara is obviously able to pick up all of these. So this is a more sophisticated example, and I like to show this example because I know that this is something that is super important, and especially in these times, especially in times where electronic resources are perhaps the prevalent type of resource being used, depending again on the stage of the pandemic that you are actually in. And what you can see here is that Dara is recommending that we might automatically harvest usage data from Elsevier. So obviously from another vendor, and is actually telling me why we might do that. And the reason is that we, in our demo system, uploaded 17 manual counter files with different platforms. You can see the examples there. You can also see some of the examples of the data that we were actually uploading. And you'll see towards the bottom that Dara was recommending sushi harvesting with Elsevier instead of manual file uploads, because other institutions have successfully harvested usage data from this vendor. Because the institutions are on the same platform, Dara knows this and is able to tell me that others are actually doing this successfully. So it's working successfully for other institutions. And if I wanted to do it, I would have a simple operation of creating my sushi account for the individual details of my library. I could, again, look at more information as well. So if you think about the previous two examples that I gave you, and if you think about this example, then you will begin to see the power of the data. And these are just very small areas of data and very initial data recommendations that we're actually making. So this is the question, you know, will the day actually come when you don't look at the documentation? You rather just wait for Dara, for the recommendation assistant, to tell you what you may have missed and to suggest ways that you might improve. So imagine that you get some information that tells you how to optimize your system, you optimize your system, and everything is fine, everything is nice, and everything is good. And what you will actually see here is that for the different regions, there are some numbers that are showing the uptake. So if I specifically look at the region where I work, which is the EU or EMEA, which is including actually our customers in South Africa, some 64,000 recommendations, almost 25,000 of those were implemented. So if you actually think about that, 25,000 things were done to improve the efficiency of our systems across the region. And I can also see that some 15,800 almost are still active, meaning that they haven't yet been implemented, nor have they been dismissed as not relevant. So this is, I think, useful information. You can see that the patterns are broadly repeated across the regions. So AP being the Asia Pacific, CA, Canada, CN is our customers in China, and then NA in North America. Interesting, actually, that the uptake in China is a little bit higher, almost 60% uptake of the Dara recommendations in that region. So I want to finish with this quote, really, which was something that Hilary Mason is a data scientist and founder of Fast Forward Labs, which is actually now Cloudera. Fast Forward Labs Research, obviously been acquired, I think. And basically the quote, what she was saying is that data is a tool for enhancing intuition. So lots of us, and I include myself, when I was working in library many years ago now, you know, you have intuition in your daily life. You have intuition, but the data, or not but the data is actually enhancing this. It's giving you the knowledge, and it's giving you the skills, and it's giving you the background to actually make those decisions. So with that, I'll finish. I will rejoin later this afternoon to take any questions. But once again, thank you very much for your invitation and thank you for listening as well.